and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh and the brilliant actor Simon Callow. But first, Israel and Palestine. It's now over a month since the Palestine papers were leaked to AlJazeera, but the consequences are still being felt throughout the region. Believing that the leak came from his office, Palestinian chief negotiator Saeb Erekat resigned and the Palestinian negotiation unit has been disbanded. There is now even rumours that the Palestinians will be the next to revolt against their government, not the other lot. And it is suggested that any hopes for a peace deal with Israel in the near future are well and truly over. Joining me here in the studio is a man who spent many hours across the table from Saeb Erekat, the former Israeli chief negotiator, Dr. Oded Iran. Welcome. You spent many hours in negotiation, a lot of them with Saeb Erekat and so on. And now, as we hear, people are saying there is no more hope for negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians. No more hope now. What do you think?
I think that for the next 2 years, unless we find a new formula for the negotiations or an objective, other than the full comprehensive treaty between the two sides, we are stuck because the Palestinians have to go to elections, or long overdue. The Americans are already begin their cycle of presidential elections in 2 years, and the campaign is already on its way. Israel itself might go to elections because of domestic political crisis. And so, under these circumstances, I don't see chances for a full, comprehensive peace treaty between us and the Palestinians.
For 2 years?
For almost 2 years, or full 2 years.
A full 2 years
right.
Before that?
Right. Unless we, as I said, we find an alternative, which, as the papers say, and I have been advocating it for more than 2 years, is a partial, incremental sort of way of getting there. It is clear that one important and only solution is the two-state solution. And you have to get there, but not through this comprehensive negotiations, which I don't think can take place now, but through incremental steps on the ground.
And in that situation, what would be the first step? I mean, how would that work?
Well, give you an example.
Yeah.
The West Bank is divided by the Oslo agreements into 3 areas. Area A, where the Palestinians have full authority, civilian and security. Area B, where the powers are divided, we have security. Area C is where Israel has full powers, security and civilian powers. Now, I'm saying Area C is 60% of the West Bank. This area was designated for security purposes and the settlements. I'm saying that Israel can survive and not take major security risks, even if it passes to the authority, the Palestinian Authority, half of this area. If I were the Prime Minister of Israel, I would be rightly so hesitant to take, given the turmoil in the region, hesitant to take long-term security risks. But I think that if you take minor risks on the way to the implementation of the two-state solution, you are really pushing the process forward, and you give a chance to the peace process.
And we've heard that Mr. Netanyahu has been impatient of the late with a not normally thought of as a great progressive in the area of negotiations with the Palestinians, but he had, in this case, he's wishing there was progress and so on. Would he therefore countenance what you've just suggested?
Well, as I said, there are reports that he is now thinking of doing it, that he wants to deliver a major speech on this issue, probably in the U.S. Congress, if the president will be willing to see him in, the president of the United States will be willing to see him in Washington. But the venue is unimportant. The question in my mind is whether even if he goes forward and takes this option, whether the Palestinians are ready to do this, and I'm not so sure that this is the case. And secondly, the international community has to really espouse this idea, because the international community, if you look at the recent statement of the quartet, they are still having this hangover over a comprehensive solution in our time, meaning today, and I just don't see that happening.
And we do seem to feel, whereas when President Obama came in, he was obviously going to focus on Israel and Palestine a great deal, as any president would state he was about to do. But there is a sense, both in the United States and here, for instance, that in a way the Americans have lost their momentum.
I think so. I think that the administration erred in the beginning when they focused on the settlements as a way of getting the solutions. And I think that this was erroneous and it was a mistake. And it may be now too late to rectify it. But it's worth a try. I think that the administration may now be in a position when they say to themselves, well, we are going into this presidential elections, and there are difficulties in the Arab world, there are priorities in trying to stabilize, for example, the rest of the Arab world. So they may shift the focus from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to something else in the region. And so...
something else?
Well, you know, you have to now to see how the American interests are protected. Yes. In the Gulf area, in the Mediterranean. If you look at this, this has been a major shift in the region. It may be damaging the long-term security interest of the United States, as the case may be for Israel itself.
And one Palestinian said to us, the Palestinians are unwilling to enter into serious negotiations, and therefore we should examine the idea of a long-term interim arrangement. In light of what you were saying, a long-term interim arrangement, does that fit in with your plan?
Absolutely. I think that as an Israeli, I would like to see the two-state solution alive, kept alive. It will be a major disaster if this option is abandoned or lost. And therefore, given the fact that I think that it will be impossible for Israel to take a decision on the final borders today, given all these upheavals in the Arab world, then we should at least go for the interim on the way towards the two-state solution. So I think that this is the only option.
And do you think, we hear that he's still active, although he resigned, do you think Saeb Erekat, the central figure of the Palestinian negotiating team for so long, do you think that